if it could be
Hi everybody, you're listening to the Khandaan podcast by the You Podcast team, a bi-weekly podcast revisiting the movies of Amir Khan, Salman Khan and Shahrukh Khan.
Every show we pick a random year from 3 decades of collectively 300 films the Khans have done and let our listeners vote which movie we should talk about. So it's entirely up to you.
Pick a team, make a vote, take us down nostalgia lane, punish us, or make us reassess a movie we dismissed.
We love the Khans, most of us, sometimes. And we would love for you all to be part of our Khandaan, because when it comes to the Khans in Bollywood, nothing else really matters.
What do you think, Beth, about like how Kajol is portrayed and kind of Simran?
Well, it's a little bit of both, actually. It's both like how so in the behind-the-scenes footage, he talks about like how, he doesn't talk about it, but like Kajol talks for him. And like, one, it's like very clear, like, Aditya sort of like imagined Simran to be a bit more of a romantic heroine, a bit more airy-fairy, like, romantic. And Kajol was just like, I can't even understand what he's talking about. Like, this is the best I can do. So, I don't know who this girl is. Like, there's no such girl in the history of the world. Like, she rags the hell out of him.
Oh my God. He just bullies him. Like, it's crazy.
So I think it's partly like Kajol just can't imagine being like, like the Urmila character in Rangila. Like Kajol would never.
Yeah.
But also like the way that I know from like Anupam Chopra's book, like, the way that Aditya Chopra envisioned Simran is like in the beginning of the film, like she's more of a, and it's a thing that he comes up with again and again. Like she's a bit of a jhalli, like, which for people who don't know what that means, like it's like a bit of a tomboy, like a bit of a, like she's not too feminine, basically.
She's basically wearing glasses, pigtails, and has paint stains on her overall, right? That's what Jalli should be, right?
Yeah. That is the romantic, like, Chopra version of Jalli. And then, like, obviously by the end of it, like, she's keeping Karwa Chauth and, like, she's, wearing the green lehenga and everything.
Like, there is this sequence in that making video where Saroj Khan is trying to make her understand what sharam is.
Oh, I thought that was hilarious.
What is being shy?
Yeah. Saroj is like, it's not your fault, beta. You don't understand what shy is.
But having said that, like, the same year Halchal came out with Kajol and Ajay Devgan. And that had that sexy song called I Am 16, You Are 17 and all that.
What? Okay.
Completely different image.
Yeah, but it was like really awkward though.
Yeah. Well, like awkward for me watching it with my parents,
It was just, yeah.
And yeah, Mere Khwabon Mein is like, it's Lata that's singing it, right? Which now feels so weird that we just kept forcing Lata to sing these songs for like super young girls. It just,
Awful.
It's really bad. Like, I wish we could just go back and re-record those songs with another singer or something like that. But there was nobody else. Like, I know like Rishi Kapoor and all these guys complain about Amitabh hogging all the roles in the 80s. But why do people not do that about Lata Mangeshkar? Because seriously, guys, like, wow, it's not a good look. So
I mean, like Alka Yagnik was still singing.
Yeah,
she sang Choli Ke Piche, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There were a lot of singers, like, but Lata was still dominating at that time. And I don't know. Yeah. While she's jumping around and like dancing in the rain, we also get the hero introduction of Raj, who's doing very manly hero things. He's playing, I made a list. He's playing rugby. He's running with a plane on an airfield. He's riding bikes. He's playing bowling, and he's also playing basketball. And
those exactly those sports are still being shown in Student of the Year.
I was going to say,
I would say the shorts might be slightly longer because Shahrukh's shorts are really short. It's a lot of leg, man. That's a lot of leg. And he's kind of playing like a rich bad boy with a golden heart, right? That's kind of what he's playing. And again, we've mentioned it before. Shahrukh did not want to play this role. He actually says that it seemed like a girly role for him, which is, I just thought very, very funny. We immediately go to the graduation scene because apparently Shahrukh goes to a university where nobody has ever failed before.
As someone who works in higher ed, I just want to say you would never, ever read out the name of people who don't graduate.
Yeah.
I know we shouldn't do cinema sins, but you could leave that one detail out and it wouldn't impact the film at all. It's just such a bizarre imagining of anything.
It's so weird, right? Which in university, although I know a few friends that went to this high school for diplomat sons and embassy children, nobody failed that school. Nobody. You bought your university degree there, your college degree there. And actually the only thing that failed was the school itself because they got sued for fraud and they had to shut it down. So it might be that he's going to a university like that. But I don't know. Seems
if you fail, you retake the whatever module you failed, and then you attend a future ceremony. It's not like your name would be read out in the history of this university,
and that you're never allowed back in to finish.
Absurd. But the most important
it sets up the scene for the following scene, right? It sets up how his father treats him for
but
being
the
a
most
failure
important part of that scene is that this is Karan Johar's acting debut. This is the most important part. That's why that scene is there.
Okay.
And then we go to where we get introduced to Anupam Kher and SRK. By the way, there's only an age difference of 10 years between Anupam Kher and Shahrukh Khan.
Wow.
I checked that out.
I did not know that.
It's really weird because only a couple of, I think 2 years ago, they were playing in Dar together, where Anupam Kher was playing his Juhi Chawla's brother or brother-in-law?
Brother-in-law.
Yeah.
Brother-in-law.
So, graduating to dad, I just wonder, what it is, we talk, I think there's recently been a news about Neena Gupta playing Akshay Kumar's mum in Suryavanshi.
Okay.
And people were a bit up in arms, she's so old and, she's not that old to play his mom. It's a weird thing when you think about it, right? Playing his dad and he's only 10 years old, but
But then he started off his career as an old man, pretty much. The first movie, Saransh, he's playing a father of a dead son.
Yeah. There's actually funny, there's a character actor called Steven Tobolowsky who does a podcast, and I love his podcast. He's a storytelling podcast, and he talks a lot about, he's got 400 credits on IMDb, and you know who he is. If you Google his picture, you've seen him in a ton of things, and I love his stories because he's very thoughtful. He's made some and he said that if you lose your hair at an early age, it gives you the option to play so many roles, and you get the luxury of not being pegged as a main hero, and then you can play brother-in-law, you can play villain, you can play comedy uncle, you can play nationalistic asshole, and all of those are Anupam Kher at the moment, but all of that linked to losing your hair. So it was just kind of interesting.
I've seen him on Silicon Valley. He plays one of the CEOs, right?
Yes. Tons of things. If you Google him, you know who he is. Community, he's in one day at a time, tons of things he's in.
I want to put an asterisk on this, valid for men only.
Yeah, so, and that's basically the Kuchi Ko Loka, whatever that thing, which I still hate. I hate that this movie ends with Kuchi Pupu Loka. Like, I don't understand. Like, I'm skipping ahead, but why does this movie end with Kuchi Pupu Loka? Like, why? I don't know. It just annoys the crap out of me. Like, this is the last dialogue that this movie has, is Kuchi Pupu Loka. Like, I hate it. So I think there's this contrast between Baldev being, super traditional and Anupam Kher being super modern, right? Like he's like a friend to Shahrukh. Yeah. He's, like, I couldn't, and again, getting back to the jobs of these dads, I do not understand it. He says he's a self-made millionaire, which clearly is not possible. Like, all of his granddads have these massive, like, chowkidar. I'm thinking the Kher mode. They all have these Chaudhary type pictures. Clearly, all these assholes were rich, right? They're clearly, like, this idea that...
But then he ran away from Ludhiana, so he says, like, oh, I've come to London and made everything on my own. So that might be the case. I don't know. Oh, and everybody has been like metric fail and all of that. So
right.
Yeah, maybe it's that even without studies, it's maybe more of a tale of privilege. Like, even if I don't study, I can become a millionaire.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
In the making video, Pamela Chopra says Anupam Kher's character is pretty much based on Yash Chopra, how he is with his sons.
Even dressed similarly, no? I felt like that.
Huh. The red beret.
No, what is that called? That people that wear scarves underneath their shirt, like ascot. Is that an ascot?
Ascot, what is it?
Yeah, that thing. I think it seems like something that Yash Chopra would also wear. Like, I don't know. Yeah. So Baldev gets a letter. He immediately starts smelling it. He doesn't read it because that's what, the emperors of patriarchy do. They don't read letters. And it's basically Simran having a prearranged marriage with Kuljitya, which he is not able to read Simran's reaction at all. Clearly, maybe he is just not. He's not able to read. Like, just generally, he can't read letters. He can't read expressions.
And he definitely does not own that gas station.
Yeah, I think so. I'm like, the more we talk about it, the more it's getting solidified that he's just like basically working in that gas station. So yeah, and then we have the wait, where am I? Yeah, the beer heist happens, right? Then, which
the beer heist. You're the only person calling that a beer heist.
First of all, can I just say, and again, this now I realizing this that he doesn't own the gas station, he works there, is because I was thinking always which desi would turn down a customer. Like, this is just not happening. Like, if you see a customer that wants to buy something, you're never ever gonna say, I closed the shop already, I'm not gonna sell you this.
But he's a man of principles, though.
Is he though? I don't know. Like, but again, if he is actually working and not owning the shop, then that makes sense to me. Like, he just wants to go home. Like, he's locked down, he's done. Yeah. Right? So, yeah. Or also just maybe Karan Johar has a douchey face and he doesn't want him to give him beer. I did feel bad that Shahrukh broke his little Lakshmi ki murti. That was kind of sad. And I think they were gonna make this scene worse. Like I think he was not gonna pay for the beer, or it was gonna be like something worse, and they had to soften it down because they felt it made Shah Rukh's character irredeemable later on. I don't know exactly.
Oh, no. It was going to be condoms. He was going to buy condoms.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Yeah, which is worse, right? I mean, it would make him irredeemable later on. Yeah, it was condoms. Yeah.
How much money do you think they got from Stroh's?
What is Stroh's? Is that
It's just crappy beer, as far as I know. I remember ad campaigns for the US in the 90s, certainly, but I didn't I don't know who makes it, but they got a lot of money from them because they drink it in India too.
Wow.
Is it available in India?
I don't know.
Amrita, can you ask a kid downstairs to just go and check in a shop?
I've never seen it, but I absolutely believe that if she says that it's being sold in India.
Yeah.
It's owned by Pabst, at least now it is, which is it is an American beer from Michigan originally, but I don't know. So I was surprised to see that in Britain because I would have assumed Britain would have said no, we're not drinking that crap. But there it is.
Yeah, probably the only tie-up they could get was probably some off-brand Aldi beer, so they just kind of got this going. And then when they introduced it to India, they were like, oh, these Indians love this beer, so they probably survived or something like that. Then getting to like a lot of in this movie is iconic, right? But then there's also a lot of things that happen in this movie that I know a lot of other desis have tried. Like, for sure. And I'll come to it later on. But the first thing that happens is the strategic prayer.
Yes.
Like, a lot of desis have tried this technique, right? This is a classic, right?
Wake up in the morning, show respect to God so that you impress your dad.
Or if you have
or either that or your report card.
Exactly, that's what I was going to say. Oh, Amrita, you and me are in sync. This is a bad report card. This is the two things we have tried this on.
I think so one of the reasons why this movie is so iconic for a lot of people is because this was the first movie that the NRIs basically saw themselves in. And that's something that a lot of people have written about. But before this movie came out, all you had was Manoj Kumar in what was that movie? That East versus
Purab
West? Purab or Paschim, yeah. Right. And it was Saira Banu in a blonde wig. And it was just terrible.
Amrita, you're forgetting the most iconic NRI portrayal before DDLJ, which is it's Debu from America. Hi.
Fucking movies.
Ram Lakhan. Ding dong, oh baby, sing that song. No, that's another one. But that was the most iconic NRI. Basically, we were just we were coming in with headphones on and we were going to rape Indian women. That's what, that's what we were. These crazed, hungry, sex-crazed people that come in. So, which is, actually it's funny because I was watching this scene, which immediately made me think of the Mohabbatein scene with Aishwarya and Amitabh, which is a play for play. It's the same exact scene.
Except I mean, it's pretty dark, but I can't help but laugh at the thought of that scene because she literally comes and she does the little prayer thing and he's like, oh, everything is fine. And then he's just just jokes. And jumps off the balcony. I'm just wow, you just went a complete 180 on that, dude. I did not see that coming the first time around that I saw that movie.
Also, it's how aren't mandirs on ground floor? Where did she jump from? Didn't she just jump in the bushes in the garden? That is not a 4-story house. She could anyway. I have issues with Mohabbatein. If we ever get to it, we should. But it also made me think of Pardes, the Shahrukh Khan movie directed by, which also has, which did bring back the NRI's sex-crazed, hungry rapist trope in it. So it's funny how we go back and forth, but we went back and forth really quickly. Subhash guy was wait a minute, I need to bring things back to the 80s because Debu is the way to go. So go ahead.
And I think the reason why another reason why DDLJ has sort of maintained its status is basically because we haven't really had another movie come up that's done the NRI thing. The way that this movie has. I think Namaste London, weirdly enough, came closest because you had was it Namaste London? Or the one with Katrina has to get married by force?
Yeah. With Akshay Kumar. Yeah.
But like, yeah, there hasn't been another movie about the NRI experience or
Patiala
like
House.
of, like,
a lot of people say Patiala House is one they bring up a lot.
Yeah.
I do not like Patiala House, by the way. So she asked for a month of her own life back, which is just terrible when you think about it. But, we first get the iconic line is Jaji le apni zindagi, So that happens. Then another iconic scene happens is the train sequence, which the first time it happens is quite like... low key, right? It's quite low key the first time it happens. He's just kind of helping her get into the train, and we would never know that these two things become, entangled and such a big part of, cinema history, I guess. And immediately Shahrukh is a douchebag. like his backpack is filled with douchebaggery, and he just like drops it all on the floor, right? Like, Beth, how do you like? Is this peak Shahrukh douchebaggery, or are there?
Yeah.
Because he's like trying all the like Pakao lines. He's like Robbie ki party, and he's like your eyes remind me of my dadi, which is such a weird kink, man. Like really weird kink.
He's a stalker. And he's awful. This character is so awful.
Yeah.
Amrita, would in today's terms Raj be called a fuckboy?
Yes. Like 100%. He's also like, like Beth, you want to like talk about like there's that scene where like, so they go through all of Europe and he's just basically saying all these annoying things, and like there's that weird thing where he's like negging her and like trying to make her believe that, he's kicking it with her girlfriend or her best friend or whatever.
Right. Sheena.
Sheena. And like and that whole like Ruk Jao Dil Diwane song comes on, which is my least favorite song in the whole movie.
Yeah, mine too.
And then there's that scene where they're stranded in the middle of nowhere and they have to be at this farmhouse or whatever. And then she gets drunk and she wakes up in the morning, and then he convinces her that they had premarital sex because that's like a prank. And Beth, you and I have talked about this.
Yeah, because I messaged Amrita while I was rewatching this. I'm like, what do we even call what he's pretending has happened? Is he like pretending he raped her? Is he, and then he has that whole thing about, I'm Indian, I could never even imagine such a thing. I'm like, well, you did imagine it because you're joking about it. And then you do it again when she's going to change out of the shirt or whatever. It's just horrible.
Mm.
And then also, like, as Beth pointed out, like, what does he mean by, like, I would never do that to, like, an Indian girl? Like, does that mean that he would actually do that?
He just did it.
Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, it's an interesting scene because there is a base for... They do lay the foundation that he's a prankster, right? Like, and we kind of come back to that after Rukja, where you have the flower and he squirts her with water. Yep. I hope it's water. So there's this base that he's a terrible prankster, right? And I imagine it's like one of those things where he is trying to do a joke, but he doesn't understand the repercussion of it. Because I don't think he understands Simran at that time. Like, he thinks she's... Because there's this juxtaposition between Sheena and Simran, right? Where Sheena goes to the parties. She goes to so many parties. And she's like, all of these saste lines, that Shahrukh, they don't work on Simran, totally work on Sheena. Sheena, by the way, who's she's a famous costume designer, right? She's now?
Yeah.
Right.
Or a stylist or something.
Yeah. So there's that kind of, and actually that negging thing, it reminded me really of Tezab. Remember that scene where Anil Kapoor is like, line maro to her best friend, and he does that thing with Mandakini, I think, Mandakini?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then Madhuri gets really jealous, and I just it reminded me immediately of that scene, which was also bloody terrible. But Madhuri is so good, and we've talked about this so many times on the podcast. Is things that Shahrukh can do and pull off that nobody else can pull off. It is insane. Like have Sanjay Dutt do it, or have Shakti Kapoor do it, or Jackie Shroff do it. It would not work. But Shahrukh can just. Yeah, it's frustrating at this point that he's doing he's such a fuckboy, but he gets away with it, and we love him for it because it's Shahrukh, and we have just no sense of that level of identification with Kajol and Simran. It's weird, like.
It's fascinating that worked at the time too, because if he is coming to this mostly known for negative roles, that he's able to somehow convince billions at this point of people that this is charming.
Yeah.
But even when he was doing like negative roles, like in Dar, he is very clearly stalking this girl. He's like trying to kill her husband, like all those things. And people loved him in it. Like people, like, it's Shah Rukh's superpower, I think.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
He can just be like the most evil son of a bitch that you've ever seen in your life. And then everybody's just like, oh, I totally take him home to see my mom.
Yeah.
And he can still do it because his, Rais is not a good person. That's a very charismatic character.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, from a making perspective, like if you see the making video of that particular scene, they had like 50 retakes and they were laughing their heads off.
Yeah. And it was funny because Kajol was saying, like Aditya wanted this steamy, sensual, like European type of role. Like, I think Aditya wrote this character as like Kim Basinger more than Kajol. Like, and he got Kajol. I think that's what he was going for, like 9.5 weeks or something like that, especially with that white shirt and all that.
Yeah, Raj is basically like Aditya's alter ego.
Yeah,
like
that's for sure. That's 100% sure. Yeah.
We've said it before and we'll say it again. Run, Ronnie, run. I have a question about this scene that I only came up with the other day because I was reading something about this movie. I thought that everything that happens sort of between the barn and then the morning is dream sequence.
Yeah, that's a weird one, right? Yeah.
Someone else was saying they thought it all really happened. I was like, no, there's no way that really happened. But I don't know now.
Because it's already morning when they're singing and dancing.
Exactly.
Right?
She would have been drunk for 48 hours, basically. So,
right.
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Like, yeah, it's a weird one. I've not understood that either.
And if it is a dream sequence, which I assumed it is, but like, whose dream is it? Are they both? We're supposed to understand kind of a shared perspective in that, or is it hers? Because one of the things I have like about this movie in the last few days is that not the perspective exactly, but certainly the focus of point of view changes when the movie goes to India, because the Europe part is mostly her perspective in a way, and then the India part is mostly his. Mm-hmm. And so I would assume that the dream is mostly hers, but then clearly he's in on what's in her head, if so, because then he can, do his horrible joke.
Just to kind of get back to Ruk Jao Jaane Jana, this was the song that Farah Khan actually directed. It's the only song in the movie that she kind of did. All the rest is done by Saroj Khan. I do really, there's one thing that I really like. And I think one thing that still annoys me after 26 years, I hate that Kajol calls him the best piano player and not a pianist. Annoys me. It just annoys me the hell. Like, again, we don't want to do a cinema sins things where everything wrong. Clearly, these guys, having lived in London, have no English, British, Asian accent whatsoever, Even their, base English is not good enough sometimes. But fine, let's not get into it. But just the piano player annoys me. Just call it a pianist, yeah. Like, seriously. But I do really, really love the line that Shahrukh says, "Main to paida hi piano pe hu." I was born on the piano. I love that delivery. I love that line. It is the funniest thing ever. I love it.
I wonder if Shahrukh ad-libbed it.
100%.
I would guess so, yeah.
100%, especially with Farah around the corner. This is like Farah Shahrukh territory. Like, this is them doing it. It's so good. I also like the fact that he dropped Kajol without telling her, but Farah knew, which again shows a lot about how Farah thinks about women. Again, a theme.
And they made a retake of that as well. And the second time, Kajol was like, I fell even harder because she was anticipating the fall.
Yeah.
I like that this is the scene where I feel like throughout this film, Shahrukh treats the ground as though it is made of rubber everywhere. And this is where you see, like, he is so bouncy, and it's kind of like watching, Tigger in Winnie the Pooh. It's impossible not to sort of bounce along with him at a certain point, even if you hate him. Yeah. Hate his character.
He's doing a Shammi Kapoor impression, actually.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. So that was kind of the brief.
The song is very Teasery Munzel, even in the sort of some of the instruments thing. And it's a pretty good reconstruction of that, I would say. I feel like aesthetically this song doesn't hold up at all. Like it's very 90s in a bad way to me. Like they some of the people look great, and then they just shat all over the backing dancers, which is common enough, but
they were all wearing like Karisma Kapoor's Raja Hindustani dress. And then Amir's hat with it. It's like a combination of both things together.
They saw into the future and brought it back.
So, I mean, we're pretty much stuck in Europe at the moment. Shahrukh is buying knives at a convenience store. She's buying cowbells. The leather jacket makes its intro with the red shirt and the Austrian hat. What is that hat called with the feather? Is it a Tyrol hat or something like that?
Yeah.
Iconic, yaar. Iconic. Like, seriously. I dressed like that for a minute. Like, for a split second. Like, for sure. Especially, like, it's a cool look, man. Like, I gotta say, Shahrukh has a cool look there. Like, who would think to pair a leather Hardy jacket with that Austrian feather hat and it becoming such a big thing? And I don't know if it was Manish Malhotra, I don't know if it was Aditya Chopra, but whoever did that, they knew about, being able to create an image that would, the hat was on top of, the cassettes. The cassette had the logo and it had the hat on it. Like, they knew what they were doing. It was a conscious choice, and I think that's pretty darn awesome. I also like the fact that when they miss the train, Shahrukh says, "Main hoon na," and Kajol starts bawling, like super exaggerated. It's so funny because I think it's the first time Shahrukh says the line "Main hoon na," which is kind of like, again, an iconic thing for him now. But the reaction Kajol gives is just like crying, and he hides himself behind the hat and he goes, "Main nahi hu." I just thought that was so funny. By the way, there's a lot of, again, a thing that Shahrukh does, the shut up Simran, shut up, and he does this at least 4 or 5 times already. He's already done it like the 4 or 5 times. Like I think Shahrukh is the first one to realize that he loves Kajol, and I think his expression is really beautiful when he realizes she's getting married. I thought that was kind of like Shahrukh really played that really well. The Palat line is iconic again. I do have always thought that it was taken from Clint Eastwood's movie Line of Fire. Does anybody remember this movie?
No.
In 1993, it's a movie about Clint Eastwood being the bodyguard of the president. And
I remember the movie, but I don't remember what you're talking about.
Exact same line, and Kajol is played by Rene Russo. I don't know, I just kind of like these things stick in my head, and I was like, 2 years later, I saw it in DDLJ. I was like, wow, this is exactly the same thing. Might be a false memory.
Age of Innocence does it too.
Oh, do they?
Scorsese's Age of Innocence also has a scene like that.
Okay. I don't know.
I remember that one.
Yeah.
I do remember that one, yeah.
ये राज ये लड़की तुझे अगर प्यार करती है तो पलट के देखेगी.
I honestly, I was just like, wait, who is talking?
ये शाहरुख कहाँ से आ गया? Wait a second.
I was like, ये कौन है?
Age of Innocence also came out in 93. So I don't know. Maybe people can let us know. Where did Aditya Chopra rip off the scene from Line of Fire or Age of Innocence?
Yeah, it's more likely to be Line of Fire than Age of Innocence.
Probably.
Apna banda hai, Aditya. Yeah. I also love the fact that Simran says to Sheena, "You're coming to my wedding, Ra?" And Sheena flat out lies that she's coming to the wedding. Yeah, of course I'm coming to the wedding. And she does not come to the wedding. Narrator's voice.
That's true.
She does not come to the
wedding. And then they're back in London. They separate. And this is my favorite song of the movie. It's my favorite song. I find it's the best shot. I love the interplay of them realizing on their way back that they love each other, and I love, them seeing an image of Shahrukh and Kajol in different setups. I like Kajol in a Mary Had a Little Lamb kind of costume she's wearing, whatever that is. I like Shahrukh as a saxophone player on Angel Station. I like that. And I also like when Shahrukh says he's not going to come to the wedding. Breaks my heart a little. Cowbell, lots of cowbell, more cowbell. They go back, she leaves the cowbell. And actually, this is something I'd not noticed before, that Simran does take a chance. She leaves that cowbell. And I thought that was kind of sweet. Like, if he ever comes, if he ever finds me, the cowbell is going to be there to show him that, I'm waiting for him. I just thought that was kind of sweet. Like, I don't know. Did you guys notice the cowbell before?
Yeah.
So, go ahead.
I mean, the joke would have been on them if, he had showed up 6 months later. And she was just like, I'm already married. Sorry.
That's because you don't understand the urgency of hormonal young love. It needs to happen now. They go back to India. Ghar Aaja Pardesi starts playing again. I'll just say this song made NRIs cry since they hadn't cried from Pankaj Udas Chitti Aayi Hai. I grew up in outside of India, Pakistan. This song was in every uncle's car and they were crying listening to this song. And I remember Pankaj Udas's Chitti Aayi Hai too. That's how old I am. Both of these songs, this one and after this was probably Sandese Aate Hain from Border. They just kind of NRIs are really not into emailing at that point, so letters really hold a big thing. That's why they're smelling them, apparently. What did you guys think of the India kind of segments of this movie?
Yeah, so that's pretty much it, right? Like what I was saying before, that this is one of the reasons why so many women fell in love with Raj. It's not his fuckboy persona in the first half. It's this second half where he's nice to her mom. He's a part of the family. He has the opportunity to fuck off and go hunting with all the douchey frat boys.
They're so douchey.
Yeah,
they're awful.
They're so douchey. Kuljit.
Kuljit, basically. And he doesn't choose to do that. Instead, he chooses to stay at home, and he's patawing the mother, but he's also he's doing it well. He's not being a nuisance, He's being nice to her kid sister. He's being nice to Kuljit's sister, disastrously so. He's being nice to her mom. He's being really lovely to her. And he's not, but it's interesting because he's not interested so much in upending the patriarchy or telling these women that, how come you guys have to sit at home and basically work as drones while the men are out drinking chai or beer or basically doing whatever they want to. He's not interested in doing any of that, but he will basically help you shoulder your burdens within patriarchy, within the structures of patriarchy. So he's not threatening to the men. And he is also passing himself off as an ally to the women, which is a very
smart.
Yeah, it's a very smart play by Aditya Chopra writing that character like that. And I think that's also why this movie has the staying power that it has, because it literally is no threat. Like, it's not telling the women that their lot in life is basically, fucked up, and they ought to be telling their husbands to like get in that kitchen and like make that cup of tea if you want it like all the time. Or like, don't just abandon me in the middle of the day and like go off hunting. Like, it's not saying any of those things. Like, it's saying that, yes, of course the men are going to do that. And like, of course you have to like keep a fast for them. But, they'll also keep a fast for you. So cute. So,
and that Simran in the end, she does get to have the dream that she had, but only after literally everyone else approves.
Yeah, exactly. Like, she has to be, she has her mother on her side, and then eventually like her dad gives her permission, and then
it's okay.
Then it's okay.
It also reminded me, I don't know if it's Hum Aapke Hain Kaun, Hum Aapke Hain Kaun or the one after. What's the one, Hum Saath Saath Hain, where there's this line where Suraj Bharjatya said, "Oh, a home is a home where we come home after work and the women are making our food."
Yeah.
It is, I think it's Hum Saath Saath Hain, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's just like, okay, Aditya was taking some baby steps, but really those baby steps were needed, right? Like, I mean, he's not there to liberate women, like you said, but I think, it was kind of an important step to see a hero, cut vegetables and that kind of thing, or, take over the thali and, that kind of thing. And I think it was something. It's just funny now looking it back, where people complain about, the Khans being like, super patriarchal and super old school. But when this was happening, they were new. They were breaking the mold for the Anil Kapoors, from the Jackie Shroffs, who were manly men in tights, getting into fights, that kind of thing. Who would have thought I would have gone in Robin Hood Men in Tight Coats?
No, I love it. I was giggling at Anil Kapoor as manly man. That doesn't come to me, and it's great.
But yeah, I mean, this was kind of breaking the mold at that time. It was very new for us. So yeah, some kudos, half a kudo, a quarter a kudo.
And also the whole Anupam Kher and Himani Shivpuri love angle that they tried to bring in with the, bring back Anupam Kher as a comedy uncle.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel so bad for her at the end of this movie. Like, she just gets abandoned.
I know. I felt like less bad. I feel more bad for her than for Preeti, Kuljit's sister, because at least Preeti gets an apology in front of people, right? Like, Himani gets nothing unless, Anupam Kher came back and took her too,
Do they only have one scene together?
Yes.
I think they've only got that one where he bumps into her, right?
Yeah.
No, there's like another one, right? Where...
No, I think... I know.
It's not much, though. It's not like they really developed that story. But yeah, I feel bad for her, too.
But again...
She could just leave. Why doesn't she just go?
And again, it's one of those kinks that we discover with Karan Johar, who then makes this into Anupam Kher and Miss Briganza, and the eventual step that becomes Sexy Sam Amitabh, which was kind of the ending of that kind of horny uncle, horny dada kind of role. Oh God, I hate Sexy Sam.
Also, the whole trend of like after Mehndi Laga Ke Rakhna, you see all of a sudden, surprise, Baldev Singh can sing, and the dad and the mum romance. You see that in, like, say, Shava in K3G and all that.
But it's so less cringe. It's such a moment, right? Because, like, he's been strict, and it's the first moment he kind of softens up. And it works there more than any other. Like, and also just the song is such a good choice. Because that's exactly what people from that era sing to their wives, It's like, it's that one song, It's not Aati Hai Khandala, Karan. It's not.
Yeah, exactly.
Mustard fields happen. Oh, one thing about the mustard fields, I need to ask you this. Because obviously what Raj does requires a lot of planning, right? Is he hiding
around with a cowboy?
Yeah. There's cowboys involved. There's a backpack with lots of clothes in it. There's a mandolin needs to go in there. There's a lot of planning. But is he playing the tune hiding in the corner and he knows where she lives? Because she's hearing that tune from a while, but then she, like, what's going on? Is he like ninja playing that tune?
I think like for the first few times she's just hearing it in her head.
In her mind?
She got lucky.
Yeah.
That's what I read it as.
Yeah.
And the last time he is actually like hidden in the mustard field playing. And then he stands up, arms extended. Still requires a lot of planning, guys. Like, ऐसे नहीं राज बन जाते, you know, you need planning. You need like you know, you need the right perfecto. It doesn't, you have to try a few out, not just get like the cheap leather. Mustard Fields, iconic. तुझे देखा जो जाना सनम, the lyrics are still amazing. Like, still, no? Like, it's a good, really good song. It deserves its place in like, musical history, I feel like. And this was Jatin Lalit's first soundtrack, or like the first time working?
No, they've done like...
They had?
Plenty of them. This was their, like, they called this a milestone in their career because they got Anand Bakshi as well as Lata Mangeshkar for this soundtrack. So
but it was their first time with Yash Raj, I think.
Yeah.
Okay. Then the infiltration with Kuljit happens. Kuljit is a proper asshole. I hate Kuljit, and he's played by Parmeet Sethi, and it's done really well. Like, there's not been such a douchebag until Anshuman in Jab We Met, I guess. Right?
क्यों जाऊं मैं गन्ने के खेत में?
They really needed to make him horrible, though, to make Raj, you know, good by comparison. And like, this is how bad you have to be to make Raj look like a good idea.
Yeah.
I like the little exchange that Anupam Kher has with him when he says, you know, he gets him to admit right away that he fully plans to cheat on his wife when he's going abroad to do whatever it is that he does. It's interesting that we have this one little moment of, now here's someone who's born and bred in India and is a trash bag.
Yeah.
So it's not only the West that produces trash bags, and nobody really comments on it. And of course, Baldev doesn't hear it, but I thought that was I don't know if that's on purpose that they do that way, but it's a nod to, you know, the East versus West dichotomy isn't as strong here as it initially appears, maybe.
No, that's absolutely like deliberate. Like, you know, there's like Shahrukh, and he's like so sanskari, and he like loves the mother, and like he's he might drink beer once upon a time, but like otherwise he's like so nice and like so polite, and he doesn't want to like elope with her. He wants to stay there and get everybody's blessings. And then there's this douchebag who's like from India, whatever, but he on the surface he's like, you know, he's Baldev's son, whose son? Kuldeep's son? Whose
no,
son?
Satish Shah's son.
Yeah. Yes, but what is Satish Shah's character name?
And it's somebody, again, one of the articles I was reading points out that like it's interesting that they cast him in that role because there is nothing perfect about that guy, right? The version of India that he is not
that's
great.
Yeah, that's the point, you know, like in like movies like Purab Paschim, you had like Bharat, who was like from India, and therefore he was like the depository of like all good values and morals, as compared to like the Western race, Saira Banu and Rajendranath, who are like dissolute and immoral, and they drink and they fornicate, and they, you know, with like white people, and they dress like white people, whereas like dear saintly like Manoj Kumar is dressed in like a dhoti kurta and like sing songs about like how wonderful India is. Whereas here, you know, like Raj is like dressed, he's very much a Western kid, but he's also like very like, you know, he wouldn't rape an unconscious Kajol because she's Indian.
Phir bhi dil hai Hindustani, phir bhi dil hai Hindustani.
Exactly. And like, you know, Kuldeep is like very Indian, but like he's also planning to cheat on his wife, and he drinks, and he like shoots the pigeon, and like he does like awful things.
Yeah. It funnily reminded me of Rami, the show on Hulu that I just watched and I was recommending to you guys. It's an amazing show. If people can find it, I would strongly recommend it. It's like a bit like was Aziz Ansari show's Master of None, but slightly better, I would say. And it's a lot about this where, Rami he's like an Egyptian kid grown up in America, and he just feels he's lost. He doesn't understand, is he an Egyptian? Is he an American? Is he Muslim? Is he kind of a liberal? What is he? And he thinks going back to Egypt will solve these issues. But when he goes back to Egypt, he sees that, these people are so much modern, and they don't care about religion. They don't care about being woke, and they're into coke. They're into this and that. And it just kind of reminded me that, Baldev wants to go back to this idea of purity of his country, but what he gets is Kuljit.
And he gets is Himani his sister?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So a sister that flirts with a Westerner, and his best friend is not at all ideal, and nothing is as he would hope it, as he's imagined it would be.
I wish they could have explored a little bit more, I think. But
I agree.
It's a shame. I do love the line that Shahrukh delivers, and again, it's probably a Shahrukh freestyle where he says, "Kuljite aa mujhe itni sardi lagi main joote pehen ke soya."
Ek hi pair mein thand lagi thi.
Yeah, he's like, "But you're only wearing one shoe." I was like, "No, but I was only cold on one leg." It's so funny. So
By the
funny.
way, Satish Shah's name is Ajit Singh in this movie.
Ajit Singh.
Mera dost Ajit. That's why Amrish Puri.
Very good.
Very, very good.
Mehndi laga ke rakhna happens. Anupam Kher arrives. He messes things up completely. I do love the scene where he's like, "Ye Preeti London mein kya kar rahi thi? Ye Simran kaun hai?" Totally confused. Karwa Chauth happens. Kajol gets hangry pretty much. I do not like the Karwa Chauth portion because I feel Kajol is being a bit unreasonable at that time. I don't know. Does anybody agree with that or not?
Unreasonable in what way?
Doing the Karwa Chauth. Why is she forcing this Karwa Chauth thing? And Shahrukh is like, "Yeah, you live in this dream world where I'll just come and give you the water. Are you totally crazy?" I could feel Shahrukh at that time.
Yeah, I mean, what I love about that scene is when she meets him on the on the roof, and then she's like, "You know what?" And then he basically looks at her and goes like, "Nah," after he's just gone through the entire ringer trying to make it all happen for her, and then she's just like, "Oh, I've got one more thing. I won't wear Kuldeep's ring on my finger."
Yeah, the next level.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying Simran, I feel, is kind of being unreasonable at that time.
Somebody in the film says that she's like her father, right? In stubbornness, and she really is.
Shahrukh,
at least in a few moments.
Yeah. I do like the scene where a dialogue that Shahrukh says, "Simran, chand dikh raha hai," and it's her reflection. And again, iconic, and a line that many desis have tried. So there's a graduate level where, first Chutki discovers that Raj is Raj. That was really sweet because we hadn't really seen bonding between the sisters for a while. And it just felt that, taking Simran back to India also really isolated her. And
very much, yeah.
Reconnecting with Chutki, it gave this boost again to Simran where she says to Chutki very bravely, her voice even changes, "Shadi to main isi se karungi, I'm only going to get married to this guy." And that her voice came back, and I thought that was really nice. I do like the Farida Jalal Shahrukh scene where she discovers it.
Yes.
And it's a speech I still deliver to my daughter. I'll be honest. The Do Raste dialogue, I still say it's such a sweet way of expressing it, and watching the making of, Shahrukh's backstory, he lost his mom at a young age. It's heartbreaking. I mean, it really touches you. You really feel that Shahrukh put a lot in that scene. And I really love it. And I love also the joke at the end that, is it a family problem that you all start crying? It's a really good scene. What did you guys think of that scene?
It's touching, except that Shahrukh, he is mansplaining Simran to her mother, who is the person who knows and loves her best in the entire world. And I appreciate that he wants to put out a different point of view that, that meets his own criteria of what success is going to look like. But like, how dare you also?
Yeah, I mean, it was, I remember being like way more impressed with it back in the day than I was this time around. Yeah, it's basically what Beth said. Like, I couldn't put my finger on it, but like what Beth said is like perfectly right. Like that is what he's doing. He's like mansplaining her daughter to, and like Farida Jalal has that expression on her face where she's just like, really? Like, is that what you're doing right now? But she's also like, but I think like she also understands by the fact that he's making that speech that her daughter might, like, this is her chance. This is the chance for her daughter to have a very different life, a life that she herself dreamt for herself but could never make happen. And that's what basically pushes her over the edge. And that's when she goes like, okay, fine. Like, I'm going to try and make this happen for my daughter.
Right.
We're pretty much wrapping it up, the movie at least. Raj saves a kabutar. Apparently, dirt has healing properties.
No.
Not just any dirt.
Desh ki
mitti, obviously. Bauji fondly forgives him. I also like that he just, because there's this idea about does Bauji recognize him or he doesn't recognize him, that scene where they first meet. But here he just like blankly says, please forgive me. And I kind of like he says, I've forgiven you for a hot minute, basically.
Is that the scene where I think this must be another Shahrukh ad-lib where he feeds himself birdseed?
Yeah, no, that was before. That was
the funniest thing in the movie to me.
Yeah, that was an ad-lib. Yeah. Bauji forgives him for a hot minute, and he also sees Kuljit for the first time doing something shitty, which was also kind of important, I feel.
Yeah.
Dadi has no chill, and she has no regard for wedding logistics and catering, and she just says, bring the wedding forward. Wedding is happening. The wind...
Photograph flies.
Sorry?
The photograph flies.
Yeah, so wind is stuffy in this movie. Bauji discover. I'm just reading off my notes at this moment, and this is how my brain works. I wrote down wind is stuffy, so I had to say it.
That's such a niche joke.
So Bauji discovers Raj is the Raj from Eurorail. He gets really angry. Slapalooza 95 starts. And Shahrukh does this whole speech again. Amazing speech. Nobody will understand us. He goes on to apology tour, which I really liked. He tries to... I feel Himani should have gotten a bit more from Anupam Kher, but I've already mentioned that. I do like that he apologized to Preeti because I do feel that was needed. Poor Preeti. And then the station fight happens, which apparently wasn't even in the script. Shahrukh added this, and he got like an hour and a half to shoot it from Aditya. And it's kind of the only concession Aditya Chopra did, because he was very like Hitler on his script and he didn't want anything changed. But because Shahrukh found the whole movie to be very girly, in his words, he wanted to have a fight sequence in it. Yeah.
And Pamela Chopra says like the movie is a hit. Like Shahrukh says that the movie is a hit because he shed blood in the final scene.
Yeah.
The entire movie like relied on that. And also that Jatin Lalit had to change the background score from whatever the arrangement was to a brass band version of Mehndi Laga Ke Rakhna.
Yeah. And like watching it now, you can see that this was hastily shot. Like most of the kicks are just flying left and right. Nobody's getting hit. The camera angles weren't like, they weren't blocked properly. We do get Shahrukh bloody mouth, which is always, a good look. We've already discussed this. Shahrukh is being unbelievably careless with his body again. Again, one of those things that Shahrukh does back in the 90s, he's just like doing backflips and falling and stuff like that, which is like, dude, this is gonna hurt in a couple of years. Like, like you can see it at that time. Bauji lets Simran go after lots of begging. Ja Ji Le Apni Zindagi comes back. He catches her in the train. And Ochi Koko Papa happens, and yay, movie is done. 3 hours of watching. They all fall in love.
Bauji and Raj share a thumbs up, and then the camera zooms out, and Kuljit and Ajit are in the frame having their awkward moment.
How is the ride back on home though? Because clearly
also, like, Bauji and like the rest of them are living in that village now. So
yeah. Bauji gave him his shop.
Like, you know, like Simran got away with Raj, and like they're basically living back in London. And I hope like they invited Chutki to go back to London to like the only like shows. But
I hope they didn't make Chutki marry Kuljit as like a wife swap thing, you know, like that happens like in Aina or something like that, like a Yashraj thing.
Yeah.
But she's 12.
Like
she hates him.
Yeah. I feel like Chutki would call up the British Embassy and be like, hello.
This is Miss Rajeshwari.
Yes.
Do you think Raj and Simran would have a happy life together?
I think so. I mean, like, I think like Simran would, like, she's literally been, like, think of the model of marriage that she's grown up with, you know, like there's her dad who like controls everything and her mother who like basically has just resigned herself to it. And now she's married to a man who's just like, yeah, sure, like you do whatever you want. Like, I don't care. Like, are you seriously thinking, like, I think like Raj is a fuckboy, but I don't think like he'd try and control Simran. He'd probably make fun of her for like being conservative, or like, you know, just say like, oh, like, you know, here she is and she's so, you know, she does puja and like she keeps Karwa Chauth and everything. But I think like...
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, but what happens to a fuckboy when the thrill of the chase is over?
Yeah, but I also feel like Raj is also that stereotype of like the guy that like dines out on like tales of his of his youth, you know, like, oh, like when I was a young guy, you don't know, like, you know, the girls that I used to get, like you don't even know, like the parties I used to
avoid
like, and then
into a Delhi boy so fast.
Like my entire,
you don't know,
I can, yeah, it's like automatic. Like I know exactly who Raj is. At least like the Raj from Delhi. So like, I feel like he'd be a more or less faithful husband, I guess. Like, I think he'd be fine.
Plus, he's got an indoor pool. He's got like a Lamborghini. I think Simran's
and
gonna
live in Hampstead, like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, and I don't think like Raj would be like the kind of fuckboy who'd like who'd get married and then like start, even if he was having affairs with other women, like he'd keep it away from the house, you know. I don't think he'd like rub it in Simran's face.
Although he is probably gonna bang Sheena, right? Like that's gonna happen.
Yeah. I feel like that's Sheena's lot in life.
So we're gonna fast forward to the patriotic school assembly in K3G, and like really that goes totally differently because Sheena is also go there.
You know, it's like with movies like this, it's just they belong to a certain place and time in not just in cinematic history, but also in your history as an audience member. And it's fine. Like, you know, if you can just leave it there as it was, it's fine. You have to sort of, you can't try and recontextualize it in modern times or with because you grow as a human being, you know, like I am not the person that I was when I was like 12, 13 or whatever when this movie came out. Like that is not who I am today. And I know more, I know better. And I hope I'm a little bit smarter than I was at that time. So like asking me to have the exact same reaction to that movie. I mean, there are some movies to which you will have the same reaction no matter how old you are, but those are like very specific kinds of movies. But this is not it. This is not that kind of movie, obviously. So I think I'm fine with it. Like, it is what it is.
I still like the movie, guys. I really do. Sorry. I watched it and I was like, actually, I could just rewatch it now. Like, I just finished it 3 hours and that doesn't happen. Like, you know, we watched K3G last time. I was spent after 3 hours. Like, I could physically feel it. I didn't have it this time. I was like, actually, I could rewatch portions of it. I really enjoyed it. And it does have that it does bring me back to the person I was at 13, 14 years old. And, like wanting to live this love story and that kind of thing. So, and the thing is with issues, like a lot of people do bring up issues of, fuckboy, patriarchy, this and that. I have less issues with DDLJ than I have with Simba that came out last year, or, Padmavat, or Kalank if I would watch it. And these are movies that are coming out this year, and I have more issues with them than I do with DDLJ, which still has kind of, 20 years ago. Like, there was no internet, there was no, we could not be woke. I would not be the person I am without learning from so many people on Twitter, like Amrita and Beth, and reading your work, we did not have that at that time. And it was these kind of baby steps. And I do think it's clearly that difference between watching it now for the first time, watching it when Beth did, without, being Indian, without having that cultural context of romance and stuff like that. Because at that time, the only romance we had was you fall in love and you run away and you never see your parents again. Either they kill you or you have a life, or you commit suicide. Yeah. Those are really the only portrayals of love that we had. And like, it also reminded me of Dhadak, weirdly enough. Cause I was like, my wife did like walk back in at the fight scene, and she was like saying like, it's a bit exaggerated. Like they're hitting him with sticks and stuff like that. But I was like, Dhadak came out last year. Like we're still kind of like, and we spoke about Luka Chupi on the last episode, and we were talking about, like live-in relationships would still be a scandal in smaller towns. So, this movie did do things. It did kind of, break the mold, and it did baby steps. Maybe it didn't do it the right way. Maybe it didn't do enough, but it did do something. So half a kudos.
Is that a tagline for this episode?
Half a kudos is the tagline.
I mean, what it does do is this is not my original thought. I was talking with someone else who said it, that what it does do so cleverly is let anyone, broadly speaking, who is likely to be in its audience have a way in to empathize with the characters and be not upset at the ending. Like, it is conservative. It is a second generation. It is a bunch of things all together, and that there is compromise that somehow is livable for everybody.
Yeah. And it does, tap into that NRI spirit, which obviously I was, I grew up that way. So it does tap into that a little bit without making us Raichans, we're not Raichans. Right. We're not the Salman Khan movie with Anupam Kher, I don't know, Jab Pyar Kisi Se Hota Hai, that kind of thing where he's like flying around in helicopters. He's just working in a gas station, and that was kind of reality for a lot of people. So
yeah, a film about regular people is not always kind of mainstream Bollywood's favorite thing anyway. So in that way, I think it's notable.
Yeah. Great. I think we can wrap it up. Sujoy, final words on DDLJ?
I think we haven't really talked about our favorite songs. So we can wrap with our favorite songs of the movie, and I guess that's...
You can sing it.
No. I think some of my favorite...
Amrish Puri impersonation is fine, but singing is not fine. What's your favorite song, man?
Mehndi Laga Ke Rakhna.
Really? Oh, wow.
It's a bundle of joy every single time. I love that song.
Okay.
Like, it's probably very, very obvious, but yeah.
It's the one I actually skip. I skip Mehndi Laga Ke Rakhna because it's so ever present in everything. So yeah, okay.
Yeah.
It's good. Yeah.
I still can't skip it. Like, it's like the whole movie, it's like very, very rewatchable. It's a bundle of nostalgia that, just takes me back to that era.
Beth, do you, the dislike for this movie, does it also extend to the soundtrack? Do you...
I don't dislike the soundtrack really, but it doesn't do anything for me.
Even the mandolin theme, even the start of Tujhe Dekha, nothing. No, nothing. It's not on your playlist.
No, but what I will say about the mandolin theme is that on my various trips to India, I don't think I've been to India and not heard this song or that riff coming from an auto, from a store, like from a musician on the street, from someone trying to sell you something, like whatever. It is everywhere. And I don't think there's another song that is as omnipresent as that one.
It's
when Aditya Chopra walks into a room, that theme plays.
Amrita, what's your favorite song to wrap it up?
So it's between Mehndi Laga Ke Rakhna and Tujhe Dekha To Ye Jana Sanam. Okay. But I feel like it's like what Beth said, like, it's like this soundtrack has never gone away.
Yeah.
Like I hear it every single time I come back to India. It's playing somewhere or the other. Yeah.
Okay, I think we can wrap it up. I think for the next episode, I think we need to change up, flip the format a little, because we're running out of years, actually. That's the problem we're having. So we will probably either let our guests pick the movie or we'll pick the movie. So, or we might still do a poll option. Maybe do 3-4 picks and let you guys choose it. Let's see. But we'll probably announce it when this episode comes out on social media. So follow us on YouPodcast or just follow the hashtag Khandaan Podcast. Beth, it was awesome having you on. Top friend, thank you for being on for a movie you don't like particularly.
Thank you. Thank you, Top Friends, for making me rethink something, because I really did and came away feeling differently about it than I did before.
Yeah.
Bro!
And Amrita, where can people find you online?
Always on Twitter at Amrita IQ.
Sujoy?
On Twitter at 9E3K.
And I'm at Asim Bernie. Thank you so much for listening, guys. We're so happy to be back. We missed you guys. We'll be posting again with our regular schedule every 2 weeks. I know for some people it's not enough. For some people it's too much. So you just kind of have to live with it. It's a compromise. Compromises make nobody happy. We'll be announcing what we'll be doing next episode. And also a little short plug. The London Indian Film Festival program is out now. Head over to the website, which is I think londonfilmfestival.com. Some really cool movies, and we're probably going to be doing some interviews or some coverage about that. The opening night movie is Article 15 with Ayushmann Khurrana, I think, which I don't know what that movie is about. Do you know, Sujoy, what that movie is about?
No, I don't exactly know what that movie is about.
Yeah, the closing night is Ritesh Batra's Photograph with Nawazuddin Siddiqui, which is pretty cool. I've not seen that movie yet. They're also playing Mard Ko Dard Nahi Hota, which we talked about, that we hadn't gotten a screening in the UK. So if you didn't get a chance, you can watch it at London Indian Film Festival. Me and Sujoy will probably be there. So if you want to come meet us, that's actually a good idea too. And I think also Bulbul Can Sing, right? Which was the Oscar nominated movie, right?
Yeah.
Oh no, not nominated. It was the entry for it.
Yeah.
Right. And you were looking forward to that one too, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So we'll probably be doing more coverage on that soon too. But anyway, thanks for listening, guys. And we'll be back with another episode in 2 weeks' time.